Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. You've had some strong words about members of Congress having blood on their hands if we can't get something done here. Having said that, there's still so much to learn about what happened in Las Vegas, the types of weapons used, how he got them, exactly where they came from. Should we wait until we know exactly what we're talking about, or what's it going to take?
Mika, waiting is one of the many tools that the folks who would have us do absolutely nothing on gun safety employ. They say it's too soon to politicize, it's too soon to act. You know, I don't remember after 9/11 when people flew airplanes into buildings, I don't remember thinking what we need to do right now is wait and not take action. You know, on hurricanes, we don't wait and not take action. And it's not like we need to know a whole lot more than we already know. We could, in this building, and this is why I get so angry at the United States Congress, I'm standing in the one building in America where with 1 hour of hard work this morning, we could pass a couple of bills that would be perfectly consistent with people's Second Amendment rights, which would be perfectly consistent with what we're supposed to do, which is represent the will of the people. Things like universal background check, which have wide support, limiting the kind of weapons that people can have. We could pass those bills today, and we would reduce the carnage, but we're not. You know what we're going to do instead? Last night, for about 20 seconds, we stopped talking about sports and dinner. We had this 20-second moment of silence. We do nothing.
So,
and we could save lives.
Let me ask you, after Newtown, we on this program talked for a very long time about the need for expanded background checks, talked about the need of limiting the ability for people to get a hold of assault-style weapons. It seems in many of these cases, like for instance background checks, as much as I support them and 90% of Americans support them, wouldn't have stopped what happened yesterday and wouldn't have stopped what happened in Newtown. So what do you say to your political foes on this issue when they say, well, yes, you want increased background checks, but that wouldn't have stopped Las Vegas or Newtown?
And Joe, I'd say two things. I would say that may be true, and I would also say that that's the other tool that people use when they try to stop any action. We will never stop gun violence in this country any more than we're going to stop any other kind of violence in this country, or any more than Sweden or Norway or Great Britain can stop gun violence. But if we passed universal background check, again, supported by some 90% of the American people, the amount of violence would go down. You know, Las Vegas is a spectacular example, like Sandy Hook and like the shooting of our own colleague Steve Scalise, is the kind of thing that makes the papers. But Joe, as you know, every single day in this country, there are almost 2 Las Vegases, 90 people who would die, 2/3 of whom die because of suicide, because there's a gun improperly stored in the house and a depressed teenager or a depressed spouse. We could do something about that.
So, Congressman, we were just talking about Chicago and what's happened in Chicago over the past several years. You can also talk about mass shootings. I mean, in America, there's practically a mass shooting every day. If you look at the statistics, it's wildly out of control. The question is, what legislation can we pass that will actually have a substantial impact on that? Because you look at Chicago, as Willie, as you brought up before, Chicago has pretty stringent gun control laws.
Yeah, I get that, Joe. And look, Chicago is the other thing that we talk about when the question is, how do we reduce this? There is no, pardon the use of the metaphor, there's no silver bullet here.
Right.
But there are 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that would reduce the number of guns on the street, that would reduce the ability of people with, you know, violent pasts to acquire weapons. You know, let's get beyond law. I happen to believe that there are probably a half dozen things that we could do that are consistent with Second Amendment rights. But what about better storage? What about fewer firearms being stolen and, as you said, then rented out by gangs? There are lots of things we could do to bring our mortality, our carnage, more in line with the rest of the civilized world, and we just don't do them. We're not even interested in talking about them because this particular proposal wouldn't have solved that problem, or because Chicago has a big problem. The question that this building needs to answer, and the people like me need to answer, is there are things we could do. Why don't we do them?
I totally agree. It is.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.